On AM 1130, 99.9 FM, Prescott, Chino Valley, and Paulden, 95.5 FM, Prescott Valley and Cottonwood, the talk of the Quad Cities, KQNA. It's
Hammer Time.
Waking Up with the YCCA. Hammer Time is brought to you by Lawhorn Plumbing, Arizona Modern Landscapes, JT's Septic, Granite Basin Roofing, Blind Brothers Arizona, Elan Electric, Manzanita Landscaping, Crosby Home Services, RED Plumbing, Eric & Sons, and Yavapai Block. And now from the studios of KQNA, it's Hammer Time, Waking Up with the YCCA. Here's the Executive Director of the Yavapai County Contractors Association, Sandy Griffiths.
Well, hello, everybody. Have a nice Saturday morning out there in front of you. We've been having some great rains this week, and it's about time, huh, Mike?
Absolutely. Boy, we needed it, and we got delivered.
It has been delivered. So those of you that are sitting back, this is Tom Riley sitting in for Sandy Griffiths, who is on secret assignment that I can't talk about. And she will be back at some point in the future. We're not sure when, as long as she comes back and arrives safe and sound. In body and mind. And well, now, at least in body.
Yeah, I was going to say there are limitations that we can hope for, but that's about as definite and finite as we can be.
Well, welcome to Hammer Time, sponsored by Yavapai County Contractors Association, coming to you from radio station KQNA, 1130 AM and 99.9 FM and 95.5 FM. Mike, do you know all
Perfect.
These different things that go? Where will all these stations goes? And 95.5 is where?
That's in Cottonwood and Prescott Valley.
Awesome. And YCCA has been doing this for a long time. Sandy's been doing this for a long time. And why she asked me to come in here, I don't know why she picked me out of the thousands of people that she knows in this community, but I feel honored to be able to do that. Our guest today is Chris Crosby with Crosby Home Services. Chris, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming back again. I understand you've been here before with Sandy as host.
I sure have.
Well, good. Let's hope that I don't do too bad a job and screw things up too badly for you, and try to get some people out there to get to know you and Crosby Home Services just a little bit better. So let's get right into it here, Chris. How long have you been in town?
So I've been in Prescott area for 22 years. So I came here in 2004. I've been in construction most of my life, and I've been running Crosby Home Services for the last 6 years.
That's awesome. So you've been here for 22 years, and now you started Crosby Home Services 6 years ago.
Yes.
And what was your motivation for starting the business?
It's kind of interesting. So that was right around COVID, and I was looking. I was working a job that was very affected by COVID, and I was looking for some other avenues to express my talents and skills. And I looked at working for some other companies, and that wasn't going to pan out. And I thought, what else can I do? And I was a good carpenter, and I decided to try to start using my carpentry skills for myself.
Well, actually, you're using your carpentry skills for everybody else, for all your customers.
Exactly.
They're the ones that are benefiting from that, right, Mike?
Yep. And as I recall, you had had some construction experience prior to coming to Prescott.
Yes. Yeah, I started in Southern California when I was 18 or 19.
Cool. And so you came here to, what were you doing for I'm not going to do the math here, 15 years before you started your own business?
So I've always been a carpenter. So I've gone from new home construction until the recession to a lot of repairs. So in the recession, there wasn't a lot of new construction around here. So it was a lot of repairs and weather sealing, whatever kind of work I could get. And then I moved into the remodeling space, and then decided to part from that and go out on my own.
And some of those factors are definitely what's keeping you busy today in today's market. But you know what, Tom? We're going to need to take a quick break, and then we can come back and hear more from Chris.
That'll be great. And remember, we are Hammer Time.
Absolutely.
Want to take us out, Mike?
It'd be my pleasure. You're listening to Hammer Time, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association. And as Tom said, we're airing on Talk of the Quad Cities, KQNA 1130 AM, 99.9 FM and 95.5 FM. So please stay tuned for some great messages from our ever so valuable sponsors. Fill up that cup of coffee, tea, or water, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
And we're back again. Hopefully you've had time to go get your cup of coffee, cup of tea, a glass of chocolate milk. I'm supposed to say that for you, Sandy, if you're listening. And we're going to be moving on there. We have Chris Crosby from Crosby Home Services as our guest today. And Chris, thank you again for being here. So Chris, tell us a little bit about the scope of services that Crosby Home Services provide. What are some of those services?
Sure. So our bread and butter service is decks by far. So it makes up about 70% of our overall business is redoing decks, whether it's a deck repair, just a rotten joist, or replacing the whole deck, or building a brand new deck that doesn't exist. That by far is our number one service offering. We're also doing remodeling, so interior remodels. Bathrooms are very popular remodeling project, as well as kitchens and trim, doors, that kind of stuff on the inside of a house.
That's awesome. So you guys kind of run the gamut there. Roughly how many employees do you guys carry most of the time?
So we have 16 full-time employees.
That's awesome.
Including our office staff. We have estimators, and we also have a full list of subcontractors that we use. So when you're getting into some of these more complex projects, it's very rare for one person or one company to do everything. So we have a full list of licensed, bonded subcontractors as well.
And they're all members of YCCA, I assume. You don't have to answer that question.
Hopefully to come. So, but you do have some of your own in-house carpenters.
Carpentry is the main skill set that we utilize for our employees. So when we look at something like a deck, it's all carpentry. We do all that work in-house.
Gotcha.
When you get into a bathroom, there's plumbing, electric, tile, and that's where we start bringing in the subcontractors.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, subcontractors. I know a little bit about remodeling. I've been there, done that.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Tom had a remodeling company, very successful here for a number of years, and so he's quite attuned as to what is involved.
Yes, I know all the gnarly questions to ask, but I'm not going to ask them all. Well, at any rate, though, I mean, Chris, you guys have been doing this now for 6 years. To go from 0 to 16 employees is quite an accomplishment.
Yep. Thank you.
And the organizational skills that take for that, you know, those organizational skills probably manifest themselves in ways that your clients need to know about, because if you're good at organization, which you got to be if you have that many employees, you're going to be that much better at customer service.
And customer service is a huge focus of ours. So we are very big about making sure we call people, making sure we show up on time. And that starts with our employees, too. The standard we set our employees to is a high standard as well. So some of the behaviors you see in construction with guys, we don't tolerate those things in our company. So it's been a focus of ours, is making sure the customer experience is very systematic and pleasant for the customers.
Tell us a little bit more. Let's drill into that just a little bit, because customer service is one of the most important things in any business. In remodeling, customer service has to be over the top, because, as you say, it's not that something will go wrong. It's that when something goes wrong, who do you want standing there and coming up to your front door to help fix it? And that's one of the things that we used to do all the time. What are some of the things your employees and you do in order to be able to keep customer service at a premium?
So we're very big on communication. And one of those things is you're working on someone's home. A lot of times they're living there still. And, you know, after we're done for the day, they're going to look at this project and seeing how things are going. And there may be a problem with something, and if we're not telling the customer, they bring it to us like it's a problem. So what we try to do is say, hey, I know this is what we ran into over here. This is what we're doing to fix it. So when you go in there tonight and see that, don't worry. So if we can head off a lot of those questions and concerns through communication, we try to do that at every step possible.
Boy, being proactive, that's half the battle right there.
Oh, it sure is. Yeah, being proactive is huge. Mike, that's got to be same in your business, too.
One of the things, though, that I'm sure Chris shares with me is the frustration. When you have your own employees, you can demand that service, you can demand that performance. When you're working with subcontractors, sometimes it gets to be, even though you have given them your expectations and they've bought into them, they don't always perform like your own employees do. And they may not show up on time, may not even show up at all, which obviously prompts a call. So it's a little more, I won't say intimidating, it's more of a challenge when you have to bring outside contractors or subcontractors in.
It can definitely be. And one thing I try to do, especially like remodeling, it's hard to get solid quotes from the subcontractors before the project is started. So we're basing a lot of our stuff off of previous experience, what a normal scope would include. But my subcontractors are normally not giving us rock solid quotes before the remodeling project starts, because they want to see what it looks like behind those walls, what it looks like inside, before they quote it. And so I communicate with them a lot before the project starts. Hey, we got this project coming up. This is where we're looking at. This is
our timing.
Yep. And so trying to communicate with the subcontractors a lot to make sure that they show up when you need them is very important.
Yep. And like I said, that's half the battle when you're working with outside vendors, is making sure that they buy into and understand your expectations.
Communication is key.
Yep.
Communication. I mean, if Sandy was here, she'd go communication, communication, communication. I'm sure she would say those things, except she would say it with her red hair bobbing back and forth, which you folks back at home can't see that. But those of us that watch Sandy all the time know all about that. At any rate, communication is so critical. And communication happens not only with your employees, which is something you can control, with your subcontractors, which is something you have a little bit less control over. I mean, some contractors we used to have, you communicate, you do it our way, or you're no longer our subcontractor. Yep. You know, that kind of thing. So there's a little bit of that goes along too. Also suppliers, the supply chain. Maybe we can talk about it. We have just a little bit before a break. Can you give us a quick little rundown on how the supply chain is doing these days?
Supply chain seems to have recovered fine from COVID. So when we talk about decks, we rarely have any unplanned delays with materials. So some products take 3 to 4 weeks to get, and that's just how long it takes to get. Some products are 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is, but it's pretty it's pretty consistent throughout. Some stuff that I run into supply chain side is going to be when a customer selects like a bathroom fixture from Home Depot or Lowe's and it's not in store, and you order it through Home Depot or Lowe's online store, and they just give you the wrong timeline. And so that's one of the things I run into now.
I'll bet it is. Well, we have to take a quick break here again. This is Hammer Time that you're listening to. Go refresh that coffee or make some new chocolate milk. I hope you're happy with that, Sandy. We'll be back in just a few more minutes. Bye.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
And we're back with Mike Enders, Sandy's wingman, I guess my wingman now. I may be your wingman, I'm not sure which. And we are here at Hammer Time, sponsored by Yavapai County Contractors Association here on KQNA. 11:30 a.m., 99.9 FM, and 95.5 FM, just in case you wanted to check some of those other station dials. Otherwise, you know where we're at because you're listening to us. At any rate, we have Chris Crosby with Crosby Home Services with us. And Chris, during the break, we were talking a little bit about how computer softwares have improved since a dinosaur like me was last involved with something like that. And you had mentioned that AI and 3D are some of the things that you are incorporating. Tell us a little bit more about how you utilize these tools.
Sure. So it's used to give a visual representation of the customer's goals with the project, both in 3D, and we can take a photo and have AI change it into a close facsimile of the customer's goals. And I think that visual presentation really helps people understand what they're getting, what their project's going to look like. It gives them the visual, because you go out there, they might like you, they might think you'll do a good job, but they still want to see what it's going to look like.
So if you, excuse me for interrupting you, I was just going to say, can you take us from the time of I call in and I say, hey, I'm interested in having my bath remodeled. Then what's the next step? Does someone go out and take that AI photograph process and then convert that into a 3D proposal, or does a salesperson go out and talk to them? How are you structured to address the client?
So we'll send someone out to go and start the discussion about what the project is going to entail. Whether it's let's just say a full bathroom for this sake. So shower, vanities, flooring, paint, trim, maybe moving some stuff around. So we can take, we have a software on our phone, we can scan that room and it'll be accurate within an inch for ceiling heights, wall widths, all that stuff, and create a layout of that. At that point, we would start looking at what the customer wanted. Again, a lot of calls we get for bathrooms or homes that were built in the 90s. They got a sit-in standalone tub. Usually it's out of cultured marble, and they never use it, and they want to get a bigger shower or something. How to utilize that space, so we can take that and say, hey, this is what it will look like.
And that cultured marble tub may or may not include a jacuzzi, which hasn't worked for 10 years.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes people are using it for garden plants.
That is awesome. So this, basically, I know that our listeners can't see you waving your phone around and talking a little bit about how you can make and scan all these different rooms based on just the photo. Is that the camera on your phone that's doing that?
So it's actually the LiDAR on...
The what?
LiDAR on an iPhone. So an iPhone has a LiDAR built in, and that's what the software utilizes, is the LiDAR on your iPhone to scan the room. And now you can't order cabinets from this layout, but it'll be accurate within an inch.
Interesting.
And once you've got this down as primarily a design and sales tool, okay, then you need to be able to expand that into something else. I mean, drawings, permit drawings, different things like that. I mean, does this software translate into the hard drawings that people need?
Yes and no. So for us, we don't do in-house drafting, but we do utilize drafting software. So this scan goes into the drafting software. We use a program called Chief Architect, and it creates a floor plan, and then we can start modifying it from there based on what the scope of the project is going to look like. If we were actually getting permitted drawings, we would take that and then send that over to our drafters, and they would create the permit drawings for us.
As far as presentation, back to the buyer, you talked earlier about a 3D presentation. So does that program that you have on your phone create that as a next step?
Yeah, it does. And we can send that through email. A customer can open it up and then move around the space with their computer in a 3D model.
Very cool.
Oh, boy, I bet that helps quite a bit with sales and answers a lot of questions ahead of time. That's a very, very important tool, and I'm impressed to see how much progress has been made in just a few years that I haven't been involved with it. I mean, there were times when I remember being able to get a distance with a particular device, a handheld device, where I could point the laser at the wall and up against another wall, and it would say, that wall is 10 feet, 2 1/4 inches away. You know, and you could build from those kinds of things. And Chris, you're laughing going, oh God, this guy is such a dinosaur.
No, I remember when those lasers were coming out, and I was slower to adopt them, but I started using them, and I felt like, man, I really stepped up my game here.
And now you just need your iPhone, which uses LiDAR. Yeah. Which I have no idea what LiDAR is. Do you have any idea what it is?
None.
Okay.
I have no idea.
You just know you have to have it in order to be able to do this.
Well, I know that because it has to be an iPhone Pro model, because the regular iPhone doesn't have the LiDAR.
Gotcha.
Wow.
So I know a lot of the architectural firms have gone to using software that creates that 3D presentation. So when they're sitting down with their clients, they can get the feedback from the client as to what they want, especially if they're designing a home from scratch. And then they're able on the next visit to go through and say, okay, based on our last conversation, we're going to drive up your driveway to the proposed house. So visually you're proceeding to go up the driveway, and then they go in the front door and walk from room to room. Pretty darn interesting and pretty innovative, whoever came up with those programs. Really helps a bunch.
I'm sitting here with my mouth agape. I'm such a Luddite when it comes to these sorts of things that, and as an architect, I never did CAD.
Right.
I never did any of that. I mean, for me, if I was going to draft something nowadays, it would be the old T-square, parallel edge, triangles, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the things that I do. It's nice to hear that these things are coming along, though. And their accuracy and their ability to be able to present what it is the client wants, that's pretty well, that's good. It's all good quality.
I'm surprised at how good it is. So, the scanner on the phone will scan the windows, the furniture, everything, and load it all in there.
And then when you start to put in the new stuff, like, the new vanity or what that's going to be, this will show this vanity size, shape, color. You can change colors, different things.
We can change color, material, texture, anything. And again, those are computers, so colors are always tricky, computer to real life, but give us a good idea what we're looking for.
Well, yeah, you'll still have the hard samples that you bring by and say, this is what your cabinet's going to be made of, that kind of thing. So,
boy, it's come so far, it's almost like going back into Hollywood, and the things that they were able to do, now that's out in mainstream.
Well, that's awesome. That is just absolutely outstanding stuff. Well, we have to take another break here in about another minute. So one of the things to do, though, to understand all those different computer stuff that you have to do, or that you almost have to do that nowadays, I would think, in order to be able to stay competitive in your field. Is that correct?
Yeah, and my goal is to be kind of on the leading edge of that. Again, we want these customer experiences to be really good, really nice for the customer. So the whole every step of the way, they know what they're getting, they know what's going on with their project, and what we're doing from point A to point B all the way to the finish of the project.
Wonderful. Well, we're about ready to take a break. Mike, why don't you do your thing and take us out?
It's my pleasure. We're having a great conversation with Chris of Crosby Construction, so please stay tuned for our next segment. Again, you're listening to Hammer Time, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association. So we'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association.
Welcome back, and although Mike didn't tell you to go get another cup of coffee, by this time you must have the jitters. You've been drinking so much coffee.
Absolutely.
Or chocolate milk. That Sandy wants us to talk about chocolate milk. And I'll have to ask her why that is at some point. We are talking with Chris Crosby of Crosby Home Services. Chris has been giving us, at least me, the dinosaur, a really good education on all the different softwares and computer stuff that they have available to them. The tools that are available through software these days are astounding. They basically take away a lot of the guesswork, I would imagine. Chris, is that the goal there, is to take away the guesswork?
Take away the guesswork and create as accurate a representation of the finished project before we start.
That is just that has always been one of the challenges that any remodeler has always faced throughout time. And so this software that you have, you say that it has the potential of integrating beyond doing just simply getting people to know what their bathroom's going to look like, or their kitchen's going to look like, or their deck is going to look like. So this can take you a little bit beyond that, but that is something that we're working on to try to get the integration, whether it be not only sales information for marketing, but it also could be for estimating, ordering materials.
Yeah, so in theory, once we create a 3D layout of whatever space we're working on, we should be able to order materials based off of that. It should be able to give help with the subcontractors and just every step of the way make the process a little bit easier, a little bit more intuitive for everyone involved.
And especially for the customer, I would think.
Especially for the customer. The visuals really appeal to people in my experience.
Can you integrate the different projects in order to assist in areas like, for example, estimating? So if you do 4 different bathrooms, for example, they're all going to be different, but they're going to have some similarities. So does the software give you that ability to start honing in on generalities of cost, for example, on vanities or countertops, plumbing fixtures, etc.?
So I think that's still mostly an experience thing. Anyone with experience in bathrooms is going to have more of a baseline on how much those things cost, how much tile costs to lay per square foot, how much mid-range 72-inch vanity cost.
And all those costs, and the kind of the continuity there is that when you sit down and talk with a client, one of the client's first questions is always going to be, how much is this going to cost me? And so that's always the big question, and they don't even know what they want yet, but by golly, they want to know how much it's going to cost.
Always, and there's a whole gamut, right? I mean, you can do a small bathroom, a big bathroom, entry-level products, or really custom products, and the price ranges can vary drastically based off of what they actually pick.
Yep, I run into that, Tom, as you can well imagine. In new construction, if they haven't been to see an architect or designer, they've just bought a piece of property, they have a dream in their mind of what they want to build, and we sit down, one of the first questions they ask is, well, gee, how much is new construction running these days? Well, how much are Volkswagens and Cadillacs running these days, and Mercedes-Benz? So it all depends on a lot of the criteria that the buyer is going to give you before you can actually give them a reasonable estimate.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Good stuff. So with we talked a lot today about the levels of service that you can provide for your customers that is kind of like the cutting edge in the remodeling industry in particular, and I think that's fantastic. So give us a little bit of a background on the kinds of clients that you have. Where are some of your clients? Do you work primarily up in Hassayampa? Do you work in Paulden? Those kinds of, that's kind of like, how much does a house cost? Well, It depends.
Right. So most of our work is in the city of Prescott. That's just where the calls come from. And it can be in Hassayampa, it can be off of Willow Lake Road. Our costing is the same no matter, how nice the house is. We don't base our pricing based off of what we think people can afford to spend. We have consistent pricing across the board. And it's going to be, so with the deck, sometimes the deck's just bad. I mean, it's fallen off the house and they got to do something about it, and they want to get it replaced. It needs to be replaced. So we started having that conversation, and we talk costs from that first appointment on. You can do a deck for $80 a square foot. You can go up to $150 or $200 a square foot if you're going really, really high end.
Sure. And if you're replacing, or not building a deck from scratch, but replacing the surfacing, once you pull up all the cedar, redwood, whatever they used, and you find out that, gosh, half of your joists have rotted from the top, or you've got a major beam that is rotted, certainly that's going to impact the cost. But one of the benefits in today's market is they make material now that will help delay some of those existing problems that we're finding now in the future. For example, a lot of homes with a north-facing deck through the winter, it may or may, well, providing we have snow, it may or may not dry out consistently before the next storm approaches, and that water works its way down to those joists. Now they have a joist tape, which you're aware of, that you can put over the top of the joist, to where when that water leaches through, it doesn't sit on top of those joists or those beams and rot. So
I was going to ask a question. Tell me, on the decking, I mean, the software has gone skyrocketed, in terms of it's exponentially new, in my opinion, from when I was in the business. What about materials? What about deck? What are some of the standard decking materials?
Almost every call I get is going to be for some sort of composite deck.
That's the deck surface, not the structure of it, or the structure as well?
Not the structure. So structure, we're still using normal Doug fir lumber. Sometimes we're getting into metal framing. And then the surface of the deck is going to be composite. I mean, every call that we get for decks, we're talking composites. People are asking for composites. It's really come a long way since it first came out. It looks so much better. It holds up better than the first generations of it, and we install a lot of it.
So the composites these days that are out there, I mentioned it's not my old Trex that I started with back in the 2010 or whatever it was, that would fall apart from time to time. So what are some of the composites? What are they made of?
There's two main branches of composite deck. There's plastic composites, where they recycle plastic grocery store bags and mix up new plastic, and a lot of recycled, and it's plastic composite. There's also a newer generation of composites that are PVC composites. So the core material is PVC. You get less heat transfer. One of the classic complaints about composite decks is they get hot. It's plastic sitting outside in the sun. It gets hot. PVCs don't have nearly as much heat transfer, and also they have more fire resistance. And anyone living in the western part of the country is getting more and more concerned about fires. And
that's absolutely right. That might be a great segue for us to take another break. And Mike, if you would take us out. When we get back, though, I want to continue talking about decks and also about fire.
We could spend the next 3 sessions on Monday talking about that, but we'll try and sum it up in one brief eclipse, because Chris certainly knows what he's running into, as do the rest of us that get involved in decking. And again, you're listening to Hammer Time. We're about to enter our last stage of today's program, so please don't turn that dial. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association.
Hi, this is Tom Riley coming back to you. Hammer Time, YCCA. I'm not Sandy. She's much, much better at this than I am, and hopefully she will be back from her secret assignment here within the next couple of weeks. We don't know that yet. Nevertheless, we're talking with Chris Crosby. Mike Enders and I are talking with Chris Crosby from Crosby Home Services, and we left on the conversation about decks, composites, and the different materials that are used on decks. And Chris, I'd like to drill into that just a little bit more. You talked about PVC composites, making it easier for me to walk on my deck with bare feet during the hot sun, as opposed to composites. Tell us a little bit more about the different kinds of materials, their support, And also, let's flavor into this the wildland-urban interface, or WUI, as Sandy would say, and how the fire mitigation efforts that are being done through the codes affect your decks.
Sure. So wildland-urban interface is more or less this idea and rules that through our construction practices, we can mitigate the risk of communities to wildfire, which is a phenomenal idea. And one of the things it affects is what materials you can use in construction. So, Mike, I'm sure you run into this with new construction. Everything has to meet the WUI requirements that the city has decided to adopt. And with decks, we run into that too. It's one of the main remodeling projects that you deal with the WUI on a regular basis. So there's only certain deck boards that we can use. They has to meet the fire requirements. And so a lot of the composites, you would think a composite would all be the same, but they're not. They have different fire ratings. They use different oils when they're blending these things together, and they have different fire ratings. So we go through the top of the fire codes, which is PVC decking, down to some of the plastics will work in the WUI as well. And some of the plastics won't work. So the stuff you see on the store at Prescott Home Depot doesn't meet the fire codes for the city of Prescott.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that Home Depot is selling shoddy stuff.
Right.
But they're very clear about what it is that they're selling.
Yeah. And so the city and the county have different requirements also. So there's, in the WUI areas, there are, and that I'm a little hesitant because that is all changing. There were areas within the city that were WUI designated and areas that were not, and we're now going into the entire city being in the WUI, but just classify areas specifically classified as to a ranking of severity within the WUI. It's the best way I can explain it. But going back to the decking, not only the surface decking, but your structural members too. 2x6, 2x8, 2x10s. Now all of a sudden we have to become heavy timber.
Yep.
You have to go 3x. So that's going to affect your cost.
Yep, and it raises the cost of everything.
Yep.
So it forces us into higher end materials, just through the codes itself.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. I'm certainly not putting that down. I'm just saying that
it's not a bad thing unless you have to pay for it.
Yeah, it is an effect that people have to realize that, this is something that we have to comply with, so we don't have a choice.
So it's basically, and Sandy's probably going to fire me for this one, but that's basically it's a tax. It's a fire tax. And the fire tax is put on people simply because it's another way of taxation, except they do it a little bit differently. They don't come out and call it a tax. They call it, we're doing this to save you. And I get it sometimes, and I understand what they're trying to do. And the old notion of a wildland fire urban interface is generally a good one. And I think that it just needs to be enforced in such a way that local specifics can be taken into account that sometimes mitigate a response. Mitigate. For instance, if I want to replace a deck, all the decks in the neighborhood have 2x6 joists in them. So I'm going to be the one deck that survives a wildland urban fire because I use 3x joists in it, and that'd be great. But
or if you're expanding your deck.
Yeah, if expanding, that's
you're adding another 10 foot on to the length and another 2 feet on to the depth, and all of a sudden, gosh, am I going to have to?
It's always an interesting conversation with the homeowner, and he says, "Why can't I do 2x10 joists? Because my existing deck, well, the codes have changed. Now these new ones have to be a timber joist." And
that's where some of the common sense has to come into play in those kinds of things, and I get that. But it's still good that we're having these things now. The timbers, the way that the decks have to be built based on code, are going to increase their cost. So if you paid $50 a square foot for a deck back in 2010, you're not going to pay $50 a square foot for the same deck, not only because prices have gone up, but because the codes have changed and the materials have changed. So we've talked about materials, we've talked about the software that you use. Chris, is there anything that you would like to tell folks that we haven't covered about your company? Anything you'd like to say? Like, hey, we're great, hire me.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously that. I mean, I think that's pretty clear already. But, I mean, give us a call. So we're not running 2-year backlogs. When we get really far behind, we might get 4 or 6 months from starting a new project. But we keep expanding. We have systems in place to make sure that through that expansion, we don't lose our quality. The jobs are controlled from start to finish, in-house by us, and we communicate with people a lot through the process.
Yeah, and you also have relationships that are kind of unique. I know one of them is an HOA up in Hacienda that you work with, and they depend on you a lot.
Yeah, so it's a maintenance account that we have with them, and we have one dedicated full-time person working for this HOA, and it's all maintenance stuff. So he might be helping them fix a hole in some drywall. He might be patching a little bit of stucco. He might help them with the landscape emergency that they had, leaking drip line or something.
Yeah, and so that's a nice feature that your company offers, and one that other HOAs might want to take into account.
Absolutely.
Well, we're getting really close to having to take the last break of our show, and we're going to come back and we're only going to have 2 minutes, but we do have a little bit of time right now. Chris, how does somebody get a hold of you or somebody at Crosby Home Services? Give us phone numbers, websites, emails, whatever you'd like.
Sure. So you can call our office at 928-458-4373, and you can talk to Brianne in the office. She's very pleasant. You can always check us out online at crosbyhomeservices.com. If you go through our website, we actually have pricing guides for all of the services that we offer. So you can download a pricing guide and get an idea of what projects are normally costing, from a bathroom to a kitchen to a deck.
And if for some reason they don't have a phone that they can get a hold of you on, or they don't have internet connection, then all they have to do is look for one of your trucks and follow you home.
Yeah.
Crosby Home Services. So the website is crosbyhomeservices.com?
Yep.
Awesome. That sounds like a really nice website. That sounds like something good. I'm going to have to check that out.
We put a lot of work into the website, and so gallery of previous projects, really easy to navigate, and then the pricing guides too are always nice for people, so they can get an idea of the costs of these projects before they even start.
Sounds like a very user-friendly
It does sound very user-friendly. That is wonderful to be able to do that. A lot of people do their shopping before they even make the phone call.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great that you give them the opportunity to do that shopping. Well, we're going to have to take a break here. Mike, take us out.
Absolutely. My pleasure. You're listening to Hammer Time. We're in our last segment. We'll be back to shut off this week's conversation. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association.
And we're back again to say goodbye this time. Before we say goodbye, though, Chris, can you give us once more the information of how people are going to get, your future customers will get in contact with you?
Sure. Give us a call, 928-458-4373. Look us up online at crosbyhomeservices.com.
Is there a component in your website where I may be able to contact you through the website?
There's a contact form on the website as well that you can fill out with your name and all that stuff. And
also you mentioned that your website has pricing.
Yep, we have pricing guides for people, whether it's a deck or a kitchen or a bathroom. And people can go and look at it and see what they can expect to spend on those types of projects.
Tom, I think that's phenomenal. That's something that you usually don't see.
Well, it's something that you there's a reason why we never did it, because costs were just all over the place. But the fact that you can somehow customize and get those pricing in there and give people some general ideas as to what it is. We used to refer people to national data, things like that, to try to get an idea of what costs would be. But on your website, I think that that's just excellent. People can contact you. They can do their shopping before they even make the phone call.
Absolutely.
That is outstanding. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to have you on here. I'm sorry Sandy wasn't here to give everybody a more entertaining radio program this morning, but nevertheless, she will be back at some point. At least we hope that she will. And at any rate, Mike, we have about 10 seconds left. Thank you all very much for joining us. Mike, why don't you take us out?
Absolutely, my pleasure. And remember, if you have any questions for Sandy, she can still be reached at 928-778-0040. She's waiting by the phone to help you. Till next week, we'll be back.
Hammer time.
Thank you for tuning in to Hammer Time. Waking Up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Heard each and every Saturday morning at 7, with an encore presentation Sunday mornings at 7 on AM 1130 by 99.9 FM in Prescott, 95.5 FM, Prescott Valley and Cottonwood, and online at kqna.com. A library of past Hammer Time shows can be listened to on the Yavapai County Contractors website at ycca.org.
Break it down.